It is Powwow.
The Powwow with Mo podcast.
Welcome to episode 5 of the Powwow with Mo podcast. I'm Mo.
I am Powwow.
All right, well, let's get into it. So the first thing I want to bring up is you can email us at thepowwowwithmo@gmail.com, and we do have a new email this week. So our friend Marshall, who even brought up when we talked about the top 5 TV shows, sent an email disappointed we did not have Lost in the top 5
Of course he did.
or Friday Night Lights. And both of them I love.
Agreed.
I know we definitely talked about Lost, just it didn't always make sense. They didn't have a plan, but it is great.
It is.
Friday Night Lights just kind of falls off. I love Michael B. Jordan, but the 4th and 5th season just aren't quite as good. And they really lose something with me when Riggins went from being a senior in season 1 to he was a senior again in season 3. It never made sense. But yeah, great shows, Marshall. They really are.
For sure, man.
All right, so what kind of current events do we have going on?
So first, I want to bring up Houston beat the Yankees 4-0 to make it to the World Series. They're first in 12 years. They'll be facing the Dodgers, which is the first time in almost 3 decades that they'll be going against each other.
Right on. And something I came across this week that I thought was interesting are some Belgian scientists have linked sugar to cancer tumors.
So America's fucked.
We are fucked. I don't think they know a lot yet. I think it's just something in the sugars helps tumors grow faster. They share some ingredients there, right? So I'm sure that over the next however long, people will research it more and we'll know, and maybe they'll take sugar out of foods and replace it with fat, and we'll go back to the way it was before.
For sure.
But I thought that was fairly interesting.
Yeah. One thing I seen that came out this week is that there was a study done in 2015 where there was 9 million deaths due to pollution. That is nearly 1 in 6 deaths are due to pollution.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's a little nuts. And I mean, that's anything from air, water, soil, chemical, or occupational pollution.
Well, but then again, like there's pollution everywhere, so it's not that surprising.
For sure.
It's like you drink water. Guess what? It's been polluted. You breathe air, but it's been polluted. There's nowhere on Earth, unless they have a biodome somewhere, where it's not all polluted.
Yeah, agreed. And I mean, you brought that up, air. I mean, that is the largest contributor to early death. Out of those nearly 9 million, it was 6.5 million were due to air pollution.
Yeah, and then, the Harvey Weinstein thing's been going on for a while.
Yes, it has.
And then Lupita Nyong'o, or how you pronounce it, Girls in 12 Years a Slave and some other things. She came out also telling a story of how he came on to her or whatever. I think it's odd. I'm not saying he's racist, but she's, black. And all these other women that I know of weren't. That have come out, and she tells her story, and then he has to make a statement of, well, that's not how I remember it. Hasn't made a statement against any other person.
Yeah.
On theirs, but it's like, no, the black chick's saying something, I'm going to
go against
straight.
her.
Seems real odd.
That's for sure. Also, in Japan, Shinzo Abe won the election. He called it a year early.
So they had the election like a year earlier than they should have.
Yeah, he called a snap election a year early, and he is wanting to make changes to the Constitution to make Japan's military known, because when they were doing polls with people in Japan, most people just don't believe the U.S. is going to help them if North Korea was to attack.
From the little bit I know, I feel like after World War II, we signed an agreement with them that they wouldn't have a military, and then we would be their military.
You're correct. And what they're wanting to do is make an amendment to their constitution to be able to make their military known. As he was saying, that they want to make, because currently it's called the Self-Defense Forces, and they're wanting to make a legitimate military by doing that amendment, which takes 2/3 of their parliament to do so. They thought may not be possible. However, he ended up winning whenever he had less than 30% approval ratings. He had all kinds of scandals going on, yet he still won.
So, and this kind of goes along with the rest of the world. Pretty much every country is getting their version of Trump.
Exactly.
Because I've seen a few other countries where it's like, Thailand's Trump, so-and-so, Austria's Trump. Basically, people are like, we need to have our own bag. So I just think our world in general is at a no one's helping us. We got to look after ourselves. And maybe that's accurate, but for a long time, it seemed like we were trying to all work together.
For sure. Not so much anymore.
Yeah. I'm sure. I mean, I saw the story about the people that finally got rescued from the Taliban. That was crazy. I guess they raped this woman a bunch while her husband was also captured with them. I'm sure that's like the hardest thing in the world to go through. But a lot of stories I've seen, people are questioning, well, why were they there? I'm like, I don't really know if that's the most important.
That's not the most important part right
the
there.
Story. But all right. I don't really know if we have anything else. We're up to about 50 listens on our first and last episodes of the podcast.
Pretty sweet.
I've also looked at them. So apparently those stats aren't always accurate. We could have more, and it just doesn't catch them. Or we could have less, I guess, if people listen twice, things like that.
We'll just leave that one off, though.
Yeah, so.
Last thing I did want to bring up was about Gordon Hayward fracturing his tibia and dislocating his ankle in about the first 5 minutes of their season opener.
Yeah, it definitely sucks. And speaking of basketball, I'm pretty much all out on NFL as soon as the basketball season started. Like, I just don't care about any news stories that come up about football. I pretty much haven't looked at my fantasy football roster since the season started for the NBA. I'm just all in on any game. If it's on, I'm trying to watch basketball, and that's where I think I now know. Just don't really care about football like I used to, and basketball is just king in my sports brain.
Agreed. When the Thunder were playing on Thursday, I was going to be switching back and forth from the Chiefs and Raiders game. However, I was just stuck on the Thunder. Granted, I wanted to watch their season opener and see how they were playing. The first quarter did not go so well.
Yeah, but there's definitely going to be some growing pains.
For sure. But they went on a 13-2 run to end the half, and they just really never looked back from there. They did let them slightly catch up, but it was pretty nice to see those three pulled off, and of course Russ Westbrook getting a triple-double in the first game, which I seen.
And then all these articles are like, is he averaging it again?
Exactly. It was like he now averages a triple-double the rest of the season.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. Today's Sunday when we record these. Last night played the Jazz, and it was like the worst shooting night ever by a team, especially a team that's supposed to have at least three great shooters. I mean, when Robertson hit like the first three in the game or the second, you're like, oh shit,
this is not good,
right? And they tried to mount a comeback, and a lot of people were like, it was out of hand. They got within 4 points in the second half at one point in time, so it's crazy they were still in it, which kind of gives you hope, but like kind of just fell apart.
They did.
So that didn't look great. There's been some other crazy, like the Warriors are 1-2 right now.
Yeah,
and apparently Steph Curry and Kevin Durant both got ejected in the most recent game because Steph's throwing pieces at motherfuckers. So I'm excited to see the rest of the basketball season. You know, we have almost 80 games left of just the regular season for each team. So, all right. So this week, our top 5 list is another tough one. They will start getting easier for us because we're going to have topics that are just like, I've joked before, top 5 Pauly Shore movies or whatever, stuff like that. But this week we're going to do top 5 favorite video games. So again, these aren't the best video games. These are just our favorites. I will say I have the most recent game I have came out in 2011. So I don't have hardly any new games.
I mean, I guess me neither on my top 5.
Right. And your number one's what I'm talking about.
Yep.
I think... I mean, there's not like a problem with video games today, but just me personally, I've just seemed to be drawn to re-releases of old games or kind of smaller titles, you know, like little $10 games that I bought. I'm like, oh, this is really fun.
Yeah.
And I think it's because I really like systems in games, like, you know, a lot of back-end systems, and also like customization. And that's just disappearing in a lot of games. It's either online focused, like you're going to play people online, which I don't care about.
Yeah.
Or it's going to be, this is a movie we've made into a video game, like an Uncharted or something, right? And it's like, here's your one character. You're playing the story we decided for you. And the gameplay's not even great. The cutscenes are great. The graphics are great. But as far as what you do moment to moment, I feel like just kind of slipping a video game. So that's why I don't have a whole lot of modern ones. But I do in my little honorable mentions that we'll get to eventually. So what do you have for your number 5 favorite video game?
Number 5, I have Lord of the Rings War in the North that was on PS3.
Right, and a lot of people will say the best Lord of the Rings game is the Twin Towers movie tie-in. But I agree. I loved War in the North when it came out. I think we got it at Hastings for $20.
We did.
When we lived together, and it was multiplayer, which is something that, you know, doesn't happen a whole lot these days. And we just played the fuck out of
nonstop.
Yeah.
I mean, I played with you, and then me and my wife played it. I mean, I've got 87% of the trophies. I think I've got like 3 or 4 left. I'll eventually have to break out the PS3 again and try to platinum that out. But Lord of the Rings, to me, I was the dwarf most of the time playing. It's just what I like to play with. But having those little secret treasures, it reminded me almost of that nostalgic feeling of playing an old game and finding a little wall you can break into to get a treasure chest.
Right.
That was just very appealing to myself.
Well, and I think what stuck out to me about the game is just it was a fun couch co-op game. And
For sure.
Couch co-op games, which basically means you don't have to be online or whatever, it's in the same room playing. I mean, there's another one on your list that's coming up. We played a lot. We lived together.
Yes.
But there just wasn't a whole lot of those. And so it was just fun at the time. We're like, well, hey, grab a controller. We're both going to play
We're going to
this.
nerd this out. So what do you have as your number 5?
All right, my number 5 is not a well-known game. It is called Ogre Battle 64. So hence from the title, it's from Nintendo 64.
Nintendo 64, yep.
I can't even describe the genre, but I'll kind of try to describe what the gameplay was like. There would be like a map, kind of look like a mini map, but it would be large. And you made groups of units. So you would have like 5 units in a group, and you would lay them out on the map and tell them to go different places. And then whenever they would come in contact with an enemy troop movement, it would go into this screen where they fought each other. But you actually didn't do any of the fighting. Like, all of the gameplay was done before it ever started. Like, you assembled the way you wanted your 5-unit group, like the back row, front row, middle rows, like a 9x9 grid. You set them on.
Okay.
And so basically you had to do all the preparation work, and then you hope you prepared correctly.
All right.
And then, it's kind of like this typical Japanese RPG. It would go through the stories. You would beat that map, and then there'd be a cutscene of stuff would happen, go on to the next map. Upgraded units. You got new weapons for them, things like that. But you had to outfit your people and basically just for the battles that were coming up. And then the stories branched off different paths, things like that. And I really include it because there hasn't been a game anything like it that I know of since. They had a Super Nintendo version that was real similar to it, but I don't even see them ever making a game like it.
Yeah, probably not.
They made a Ogre Tactics game that was, similar to other tactical-based games, but it was different on the Game Boy. And probably something will never happen again. I've downloaded an emulator to play it. I would buy it in a 64, but apparently it's like over $100 on eBay because it's just
so crazy.
They didn't print a lot of this game. So someday I may figure out a way to get it. But I don't see it anytime soon as me being able to play this game again. And me mentioning it, it's a lot of people are going to go and be like, oh, I got to find that. Because it's going to be hard to find. But I loved that game. Me and my friend Jonathan, back in junior high, would just play the fuck out of it. And it was great. I don't think I even ever beat it. Because I always restarted and was like... Because one of the cool things when you first start the game, it just asks you like 13 random questions. And then however you answered those depended on what your character was. And you never even knew what it meant. It's like... If the star comes, what is the most important to you? And it's like greed, fame, love, passion. And you're like, what does this even have to do with anything?
Exactly.
But you would answer those, and then your guy might have like magic powers and maybe just a straight warrior. Or it just was so it seemed random. I'm sure there's back-end systems into all of it that I just didn't get at the time. But I fucking just love the Ogre Battle 64, and I'm just going to keep talking about it until someday someone makes another Ogre Battle game.
For sure. So my number 4, I have Dynasty Warriors.
Which one?
So hold on.
Because, I mean, I have some on my list as well that's going to be like series, but I feel like you got to choose one.
So if I have to go with just one, because I was choosing just Dynasty Warriors in general, I'm going to have to go with Dynasty Warriors 7.
Is that the one we played most recently
Yes.
when we lived together? Yeah. I think it's probably the best one because they finally added like weapons were kind of different and mattered a little bit.
Exactly. Whereas the other ones, it didn't really matter who you had.
They also added like a fourth. Okay, so history on Dynasty Warriors. It's like a kind of history of China and how China was 3 different empires and then they come together to form China. But they added a 4th one in 7. Remember, like the light blue color people. And I don't know if that was factual. I don't know if anything in Dynasty Warriors is factual, but they present it as if it's kind of the mythological history of China. In some way.
For sure. I love the button mashing games.
Yeah, I mean it's square, 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 triangle.
Yeah,
Square, 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 triangle.
I played that game so much, and I could still pick it up right now and play it.
Yeah, I mean I remember playing Dynasty Warriors 1 or 2, whichever the first one I played was with my cousin Rusty, and been like, there's 100 enemies on screen, and that was such a big deal because it used to be there would be like 3 people on a screen, and I think that was a massive appeal of that game is you can just kill hundreds, and you like me and you would have, even though we're on the same team, we're competing to who can have the most kills
For sure.
and we're getting like 1,000, 900s, things like that.
I just remember when you went to expert, all it was is, I mean, they were just adding a whole bunch more people, and they'd add them a little more difficulty where you couldn't one hit them and knock them out.
Like their health bar was slightly more.
Exactly. But Dynasty Warriors definitely got to be my number 4.
All right, and my number 4, also a series, but I'll choose a number, is Monster Rancher.
I remember Monster Rancher. We went through almost every DVD or extra video game we had in the house.
So the whole thing on Monster Rancher, first I had a cartoon when we were younger that kind of came on, and it was fairly decent, I think. But I remember really getting to Monster Rancher 2 with my cousin Rusty, and then we played Monster Rancher 3, and I'll say my favorite is Monster Rancher 5 because that's the one when we lived together. I found an expensive-ass copy of it because it was hard to come by. Mm-hmm. The whole premise is you ranch some monsters. So you have monsters that you raise, you level up their stats, and then you take them to tournaments and battle. So it's kind of in the Pokemon vein a little bit.
Yeah.
But the big hook is you go to revive a disc stone or something is what they called it.
Yep.
And then you would go there, you'd click the button of I'm ready, and then on the PS2, it would pop out your disc tray, PS1 yourself, and then you could put in music CDs, DVDs, other video games, and then it somehow read something on the disc that would correspond with a different monster. Now, some discs gave you the same ones, but I remember like on Monster Rancher 3 or something, Backstreet Boys Millennium would give you a special monster. Or on, it might have been 5 or 3, one of them, Field of Dreams gave you a Suezo monster that looked like a bat and a baseball.
Yeah.
Right, so there was some fun ones to find, and then you would eventually go where you could crossbreed 2 monsters you trained up and get another...
And get something else.
Something else. I was kind of the disc bitch for my cousin when we played number 2. Like, I would be the one that sat by the console, and then whenever it'd be ready, I would put in the disc and take it out, put in the disc, and you would do that for hours.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I remember going to friends, and we did the same thing when we were in college, where you would just go to people like, I need to borrow every CD you own. Now, this game could not exist today because no one listens to CDs, or they just watch everything online, so they don't really have DVDs or anything like that. But at the time, that's just what you did. You'd just have a mountain of CDs, like we're going through 500 CDs
and we're going to knock them all out. Exactly.
And Clayton Holderby was our disc bitch.
Yes, he was.
Whenever we played it, I'd be like, hey, Clayton, you want to sit up there? And he had no problem with it. He was like, fuck yeah. He was all excited. I mean, just super sweet, nice guy. But I remember playing so much of that game just to... I mean, the graphics weren't amazing or whatever. It was just a fun game.
It was fun.
You trained your monsters, and 5 was cool because you could train up to 5 monsters at once, where the old ones you had to go one at a time.
Yep.
So it kind of let you multitask a little better. And they had like dungeons and things to the number 5 one. Again, I think they tried it on Game Boy, which obviously doesn't have disc, and you typed in words. But then you could just go online and be like, what are the best monsters? And then we just have a list of words.
See, that's just a little, it's like a Game Shark to me. That's a little bit of a cheat.
So it wasn't as cool, but if I ever hear about Monster Rancher on other like video game podcasts, they just always give it shit. Like, I've never heard anyone ever be positive about it. And I think that's because they didn't play it. Like, I feel like if you played it and you got into that hook, you have to have fond memories of the game.
For sure.
All right, so what do you have for number 3?
Number 3, I have Red Dead Redemption.
It's a good one.
I know we had talked about it in previous weeks, and that was one of my first, I'm hooked, I've got to play it every day games. To me, I would get on my horse with John Marston, and I would just go hunting for hawks or rabbits.
Yeah, I think the hunting was the best part.
Obviously, you can go throughout the game and beat quests and the main storyline, but just hunting in general, going and get all those feathers or whatever else you needed to grab, or trying to find a snake. That to me was awesome. Now, I know it got plenty of awards and whatnot, but it could have, to me, they could leave it as is, put out a new game of Red Dead Redemption. I would play it nonstop.
Right. I mean, they've re-released some other PS3 and Xbox 360 games on the new consoles. They could right now just release it slightly up res, a 1080p, and they would sell 1 million copies day one. And I've been waiting for them to do it because Red Dead Redemption 2's coming out within the next year. I feel like they could do. I mean, they did it to Grand Theft Auto. They put out on the new system, so maybe they will. I would buy it if they did, just to replay it.
Yeah. Now, I would not play. They came out with one later on, the Red Dead Redemption Undead Nightmare. I was not a huge fan of that, but I'm just also not a huge zombie person either.
Yeah, me either.
I mean, it was supposed to be some zombie plague that swept across the Old West back in the early 1900s.
Well, and kind of you mentioned that reminds me, like, I think the coolest part about Red Dead Redemption, because if it was a straight Western, it'd be cool enough. But it's kind of twisted.
Yeah.
Like, you come across strangers that are like, I need help finding my wife. And it turns out the dude killed his wife or whatever. Like, something always, or a cannibal, the guy's a cannibal or something.
Yeah.
Like, they always threw in a little bit of shit that made you uncomfortable. And I kind of like the way they combined 3 areas into one map. So you're like basically in Texas at first. They don't call it that. And then you go down to Mexico, which looks completely different, like has a different feel and everything. And then eventually you get up to the plains, which is kind of like Oklahoma, Kansas area. And it has a different look to it all. So I just think they did a really good job with it. And because you're on a horse, the map seems bigger.
Yep.
Even though I'm sure Grand Theft Auto is a bigger map.
It just seems...
But because you only have a horse to travel by, you know, it just makes
I mean, running from one end of the map to the other took all day long to do.
Right. All right, my number 3, this is another... I'm going to shout out the series, and then we'll see if I come down on number 2 or number 3, is Warcraft.
Okay.
Now, I've never played World of Warcraft, and I have no desire to.
Not a WoW fan. Got it?
When people are like... When I mention Warcraft 3 or 2, they're like, you play World of Warcraft? I'm like, no. And that, because they're not the same game. Like, Warcraft is a real-time strategy game. My real first exposure to it is my friend Jonathan had Warcraft 1 a long time ago, and it was okay. It wasn't great. I mean, it was, I'm sure a lot of people will think it's great. Not amazing at the time. But then Warcraft 2, my grandparents bought a computer before I had a computer. And with their computer purchase, you got to choose 3 video games. And I chose... Where in Time is Carmen Sandiego, Warcraft 2, and then some other game that obviously didn't have much of an impact, so I don't remember what it was. But I was at their house, loved it. At the computer lab in my high school, we had Warcraft 2 installed on all the computers until I was in about 9th grade, and they took them off. Playing Warcraft all day on Fridays. And some of my other classmates would go, and then I was good because I owned the game, so people would try to draft me on their teams. And that was another thing on that game is you could change which alliances you had in the middle of it. So
that's pretty sweet.
People would be like, join my team, we're gonna team up. And then go click a button. All right, I won't attack them, you know. One of my favorite bully stories, like of me bullying someone, because I would like to think it didn't happen too often, but there was kid Chance in my class, and I knew I could take my little peasant and go and get to a cannon tower as quickly as possible, because you had to build certain things to upgrade different things. And I just took my peasant, and this was not for me to win. This was just to ruin his day, because because he cried a lot, right? He complained a lot and stuff like that. So it was just, that's what I wanted to do that day. So I took a peasant, built a cannon tower right near his town hall and gold mine, and then it killed all of his peasants within like 6 minutes into class. And he started crying.
Of course.
And throwing a fit, like actual tears. And it was the funniest thing in the world to me in 8th grade. Now, I kind of feel bad about it, thinking about it. But then again, it was one day, right? Who didn't ruin his life.
And it's in 8th grade. I mean, the worst it's not at all the worst you could have done to somebody.
That's kind of my pitch for Warcraft 2. And then Warcraft 3 came out, and they made it more 3D graphics as opposed to like the 2D sprite based. And they added heroes and a few other things. And I'd go to my cousin Rusty's house who had that, and I would just watch him play it, like before I even owned it. And then eventually I got it and all that. And it was the first game I really got into online play. So you could go, and I remember your sister had an ex who played that game 15 years after release.
Yeah, he did not stop playing
So I would go online after school when we had dial-up internet. My mom would come home from work, be pissed off at me that I was tying up the phone line, all that stuff. And I would just play that online, trying to team up with my cousin, different things like that, where we're just going to try to, be the best online. I wasn't. They had custom games. I'm sure you've heard of Dota.
Yep.
Or Dota 2. Like the original Dota was a custom map built on Warcraft 3. So I remember playing that back then. I've never played the actual current Dota 2, which is a standalone game, but I played the fuck out of Dota on Warcraft 3 custom games. It was just cool. It was like, oh, you can go online and play people, and that was really, I didn't have an Xbox at that time, and PlayStation didn't do the online thing really until PlayStation 3.
Yeah.
So it was just that was getting, craving my itch of competitiveness, which I'm kind of out of now, but we both went through a Call of Duty phase where we're like,
for sure,
gotta win. And so Warcraft 3 really hit that itch. The game was just better, had a good story.
Yeah.
So I think I would give it to Warcraft 3 over Warcraft 2, but I probably have more memories from Warcraft 2. But I will say Warcraft 3 would be the third on my list.
All right. So number 2, I have Far Cry 3.
Yeah, you love that shit.
I did. I remember I got it for Christmas in 2012. I remember the day I got it from my grandparents. I sent you a picture of it with my blue controller that I was stoked about. And that game I played religiously. I ended up beating the game and then playing it over again. To me, I mean, it is a first-person shooter game. But I just loved you're in, the Indian and Pacific Ocean, which I did think it's strange that this guy who's somebody reborn at the end of the day, he's just some white dude from America,
right,
and happens to be.
And Far Cry's taken some shit in their series for being very whitewashed.
For sure. I mean, you play with a guy named Jason Brody, and as you're going throughout the quest and beating certain parts, you get more of a tattoo on your arms, and that's what signifies that you're getting closer to the end of the game. Yeah. But to me, it would literally get me anxious when I'm swimming in water and I know there's a shark coming by me. I don't know why.
And it had that whole hunting mechanic like Red Dead. And
for sure.
So it wasn't your typical first-person shooter. It added a little something.
It did. And I mean, I just remember a few of the things that I loved to do after I eventually got the skill was a melee attack where you could jump down off of a building with 2 knives in your hand and stab 2 people dead silent and move on.
Right. Well, and I remember, I played Far Cry 2.
Yeah, see, I didn't even play either one.
And I remember Far Cry 2, you're in Africa, you have malaria, and then every, 15 minutes you had to take medicine or else the malaria and then you can knock out. So, it had some shit that was annoying about it.
Yeah.
But it always had that whole, I can set fire to this tree and it'll take out the whole forest.
It'd take it all out, which was awesome.
So I think 3 did a good job. They kept all the fun stuff and they stripped away some of the annoying things.
Yeah.
And Far Cry 3 was I remember at the time just reading on magazines, it was out of left field. People didn't even expect it to be good and then everyone loved it. It was a huge success. For
sure. I mean, hence why they came out with Far Cry 4 and then Far Cry Primal. But
you played 4, right?
I played 4. I was not a huge fan because when I figured out very early on that you could get on an elephant and just destroy anybody and everybody in your path.
Right. I mean, there's a fine line between being fun and then overpowered.
Exactly. And I mean, when I've got an elephant and I can take out 20 vehicles before my elephant dies, and then I can just go find another elephant or call an elephant in. To me, that kind of lost the fun. Where Far Cry 3, which very much like my number 1, I liked being very stealth, going in with the sniper or a bow and arrow. And I remember when you had to proliferate the outpost, that when you did that, if you did it without being seen, because they had a bar that would say, whether you're being watched or looking for you. If you weren't actually seen, you got 10,000 XP, which was always a huge benefit for you. But I loved it. I was not a huge fan of the end of the game, where you got a choice between killing your friends or not, which I never went back where I would beat it again, and every time
make the opposite.
Yeah, I'd make the opposite decision. So maybe it would be different, but I mean, I chose to obviously save my friends and just kind of move on. But I remember when I finally beat that game, I was so stoked. I was like, all right, finally got this game beat after 3 or 4 months of playing, and was done with.
Well, and it had, like I said, the last 3 or 4 months, so it had a lot of random shit you could just do.
For sure. I mean, there was a lot of little special tasks that you could get. I mean, especially if you had to.
Well, it has that typical Ubisoft Assassin's Creed sort of thing where it's here's a map with a bunch of icons, clear all the icons.
Exactly. And then there was little things if you had to kill 3 sharks and some kind of
to make a special wallet.
To make a wallet or some sort of hunting belt.
Right. It's kind of dumb, but it was fun.
Exactly, for sure.
I remember I played it after you beat it, and I don't know, got 15 hours into it. I did not even get close to beating the game. but I saw what it had to offer. I was like, oh, this is fun.
Yeah, for sure. It's a fun game. So what do you have as number 2?
All right, my number 2 is probably going to cross over on your number 1 a little bit, but and again, this is another I have to debate between 2 of the games in the series. So we'll just go ahead and give away your number 1. Your number 1 is going to be Skyrim.
It is.
So that's Elder Scrolls 5. I love Skyrim. Part of me feels like I love Oblivion more, which is 4. Now, the first one I played was Elder Scrolls 3, Morrowind. I had a friend named Josh Lewis. Him and his brother had it on Xbox. I would go to their house, and this is a weird way to play because you know how the game is. They would each have a character save. So, like, Josh would play, and when he died, he would give it to his brother, and his brother would play. When he died, I got to play my character. Like, you would just load up your guy, right?
That's crazy.
And we kind of took turns. But I would hang out at their house all day. I mean, they were cool enough. But a big reason was like, I want to fucking play this game.
Yeah.
There was just something about it's a giant world and you can just do whatever you want. Like,
For sure.
And especially when 3 came out, that was super new. When Oblivion came out, I understood the concept more, and I think it was a little more popular by then. I think Oblivion's story is better. I think like just all of that stuff around it's a little better. Skyrim really polished a lot of it off. Like you can dual wield. I don't really love the dragons aspect of Skyrim. I feel like, and that's like what it's focused on. I feel like if that wasn't there and they went a different direction, it would easily be Skyrim's the best. I have platinum Skyrim twice, once on PS3 and once on PS4, so I've fully experienced that game. So I mean, it's really a tough call for me, but I probably just like Oblivion more because I was younger when I played it, right?
Understand.
And so something about that, and then. I had a girlfriend at one time who, in hindsight, it was like the worst decision I probably ever made in my life. And kind of towards the end of like, I just want to not think about life. Even one day, like I would do nothing but play Oblivion like 18 hours out of the day. Like I was just going to play that game and just ignore everything else that went on in the world. Whereas in Skyrim, I was in a happier place.
For sure.
And I feel like when you're sad, you kind of get into games more.
I can see that,
But
yeah.
I do think Skyrim's better.
Yeah, I mean, Skyrim, like I said, is my number 1. I like the dragons. I'm okay with them. However, to me, that didn't make the game at all. I mean, when I first went through my very first time, I was an orc. And then I went with the Red Guard because to me, those are the most native people you could choose on that game.
Well, they're the only people of color that are
For
humans.
sure.
And I always go Dark Elf.
Exactly. I do remember the first time I was playing it. We were at the apartment we lived in. And
I love it. See, my PlayStation 3 broke because my wife, it was my wife, she bought me God of War 3, but it was a used copy from a rental store where they had a sticker on the inside and they took it off.
Yes.
And so it had sticky residue, and then the game got stuck in my PlayStation. I used a paper clip to get it out and then fucked something up, like the disc of the scanner, and then I had to send mine in to get repaired. And then during that, I was like, Powwow, I think you should play Skyrim. I think you'll really like it.
Yeah, and I just remember we were playing it, and I was going into a cave. I am terribly terrified of spiders.
And I was so ready for this moment.
And I just was not expecting it. I had not seen this part of the gameplay. And then that massive spider drops from the ceiling, and it shakes your controller. And I remember throwing the controller, screaming like I'm 12-year-old little girl whenever I seen that spider come down because we had probably the max on volume. Yeah. And it was terrifying, but that got me hooked.
Right. Well, and going back looking at it, and the PS4 version does look better than the PS3. At the time, it looked cool.
Yeah.
Now you're like, oh, it's so muddy and jaggedy, but it was great at the time. Yeah, I mean, as soon as they come out with Elder Scrolls 6, I'll buy it the first day and I'll play it. And then Fallout is basically Elder Scrolls. It's just set in a post-apocalyptic world. I just think I'm probably a little more drawn to the fantasy stuff a little bit.
Agreed.
And I hate in Fallout the way you have different guns and different ammunition. So it's like, well, I need to have 9mm bullets for this thing. I need to have these type of bullets for this one. And just something about that to me is not as fun as like, I just have arrows and a bow or a sword and a hammer.
Exactly. And I mean, you can have different arrows, which will give you more, hit power or whatever, but you can grab any kind of arrow and it still works.
Right.
But to me, I really like the DLCs.
Yeah.
I like
building houses.
For sure. Building houses is...
It's on Hearthstone because that's the Blizzard game. that Hearthstone? Whatever. The
Hearthstone?
Hearts. I don't know. Whatever
anyways,
it is, it's fun building houses.
Yeah, and to me, I like the Vampire Quest. I mean, I beat that both times I went back and played it. But to me, I got a glitch on one, and it's whenever you're meeting the Vampire Lord at the end to beat him. If you're apparently in sneak, at least back then there was a glitch where if you were in sneak while he was talking, whenever you had to fight him, no matter what happened, you could not kill him.
That's kind of a shitty glitch.
And so I did not realize this until I'm going through in my entire arrows that I had there of, I forgot what they're called, the exploding arrows that had sunlight after you beat that white, was it the white elf quest or whatever you had to go through?
About blazing arrows.
Yeah.
Blazing sun arrows. Something.
And it was just, it was very frustrating, but luckily I saved it right before then and then was able to re-upload it. But it was very frustrating when that happened. And then I realized, okay, you can never do that. But if you're not sneak at that point, even if you have 100, he's eventually going to see you because he flies around like a bat or a bunch of bats. And it was quite annoying. But Skyrim easily is my number one.
Well, in Skyrim, one thing it kind of has over Oblivion, but I could easily see the argument going the other way, is on Oblivion when you became a vampire, because it's kind of built in the game, same like you can on Skyrim even before the DLC. It's really easy to cure being a vampire on Skyrim. Like if you become a vampire, and if you go, it's like 3 or 4 days in the game, then you like fully become a vampire, and then you can't go out in the sunlight because it burns you and stuff like that. On Oblivion, it was like a 10-hour quest to cure vampirism, and you couldn't go out in the daylight. It was really hard. And so when that would happen to you on Oblivion, your game was fucked.
Yep.
Unless you spent a long time fixing it.
Trying to fix it. And that was easy with Skyrim because you had to go see that one guy. I don't remember what town it was in. And you had to get some witches' heads or whatever.
Just make a little potion or whatever.
This little something, and it was simple and it was done. So, I mean, you have no problem consistently becoming a vampire when you need it and then going and curing yourself right after.
Well, and on my couple, second or third playthrough of the game, because like I said, I've restarted on a new system, I just always keep the potion of cure disease, and if I got it, I just take it.
You just take it right there. I hear you. So what's your number one?
All right, my number one is probably my favorite game ever. I've probably beat it more than the other game, which is Final Fantasy Tactics.
Yep. Seen that one coming.
If they put it out on PS4 tomorrow with the trophy list, because I love trophies, maybe we'll get into that more in a future episode. I would do nothing but play that game until I got all the trophies, just to prove, I love this game. I can do it. Now, I'd probably be 30 times. Not every time do I do everything. Growing up, my cousin Rusty loved that game. So the big thing on it is it's like a chessboard, kind of how you start the game, but different heights and different. It's not like a flat chessboard. And you have your units that you customize, change their classes. And so Rusty would get it. He would buy a dude and name him me. So, his name would be Aaron. And then when I would be at Rusty's house, he would hand me the controller when it was my dude's turn. So whereas in most Final Fantasy games, or just games, they weren't multiplayer. And this one's not either. But you could fake it.
But you could make,
So he'd be like, all right, here's your guy. Do the turn. And I would just hope I did the right thing so he didn't yell at me.
We didn't yell at you for sure.
But I just remember playing. We would play that game all the time. Now, I didn't realize at the time that he had a Game Shark. And he had put this cheat in that's when you spend your experience points, we'll call it that. I think it's ability points or something. It didn't actually spend, and it made it easier to level up your classes. So whenever I got the game myself, and I went and visited my grandparents in Colorado one summer for 2 weeks, and I bought the game, had a PlayStation, all that. I didn't have a Game Shark, and I was like, fuck, this is so much harder. But I remember I beat it in that 2 weeks I was there, and I just felt like such a badass. I beat this on my own without my cousin's
the Game Shark.
Without the Game Shark. And then it came out, I had a PSP. It was the first game I bought for the PSP, which they kind of upped it a little bit, added some cutscenes, and better translated it. Because that's the thing with Japanese games, they didn't always get great translations to English. So I've probably beat it on the PSP, and then Vita, bought that as well on there a few times, even recently. I'll just play the game and be like, fucking love this game. Now, I will say it's super easy to me now. I know exactly what I want to do. So if I make a game now, the first thing I do is I buy a female fighter, name her Koopy. And then I'll buy a male fighter, name her after you, and then I'll buy another one named after Jill, your wife. And I know exactly where I want to go with everybody. I'm going to make Koopy a healer magic user person. I'm going to get you to a monk as fast as possible. And then Jill will be like an archer sort of person. Right?
Yeah.
And then you have your main character. And you get people throughout, but I'll just do that. And once you get to the monk, they're kind of overpowered. And then I'm going to try to get mine and your character up to a ninja as quick as possible because you can get a move where you can attack twice.
Sweet.
And then, so if I can get there as soon as possible, then I can go back and master the other classes, and you just get 2 attacks every time. So like I know how to kind of rig the system because I've played it so much that it's just not difficult.
Yeah,
to just beat it.
Just going through the motions almost.
It is difficult to get like all the unlocks, like Cloud from Final Fantasy VII is a special character, and you kind of have to know what you're doing to get him. So you can go through towards the end game and unlock special characters. There's a way of getting all the summons. There's this one summon you can't learn unless you get attacked by it in this one special battle. So your people have to have like maximum HP to even survive it, and if they survive it, they'll learn it. But you just don't know this stuff the first time through. But Rusty, I think, had the strategy guide back in the day, so we had some inside information.
Gotcha.
I would highly recommend anyone to play it. If you've seen like XCOM, it's kind of like that style of battle. So, your guy can move so many squares, and then you have, normal attack or magic attacks or different things. I've just played it so much. There's no way it can't be my favorite game. It's kind of where I'm at on it.
I get you.
But I fucking love Final Fantasy Tactics. I don't think they'll ever make more in the series because Square Enix, does all the Final Fantasy stuff. I mean, even their Final Fantasy games, in my opinion, suck these days. They went away from the whole turn-based kind of sort of strategy elements that you used to have to where now it's an action game.
Yeah.
So I don't love them like I used to. They did make a Final Fantasy Tactics Advance and Advance 2 on the Game Boy Advance. It was super childish. It was like, here's a story of these kids in junior high, and they get sucked into another world. And the gameplay was fun, but the story wasn't.
This wasn't there,
right? And so
I get you.
I like them, but I don't love them like I love Final Fantasy Tactics. So,
I hear you.
That will have to be my number one game.
All right. So just some shout outs that we have that didn't make the top 5 list. I've got Grand Theft Auto Vice City.
See, that's actually my least favorite of the PS2 games.
Yeah.
But most people, it's their favorite. But it's really because I didn't play it. Like, I was that kid who I bought Grand Theft Auto 3 not knowing what it was. Like, probably the first day it came out, I happened to be at Walmart. I look at the back cover. Oh, this looks fun. And then I took it home, played it, and then 2 months later is when it was like, the Washington, D.C. sniper learned how to kill people from Grand Theft Auto. And then all the stories of you kill hookers, which if you ever played the game, it's like 0.01% of the game. Like, it's not a big deal. You don't even have to do it.
No.
You can just have sex with the hookers and not kill them, but that would be a waste of money because you can just get the money back.
Exactly.
There was so much to it, but my friends would all come over, play Grand Theft Auto 3, and the game, at least for us back then, I'm sure the same, was how many stars of a warrant level can you get?
And how many can you get away
Hop
with?
in the cheats as quick as possible, get all the weapons, start blowing up helicopters. But 3 really was amazing when I played it. And
Understand.
Then my friend Jonathan got Vice City, and I went to his house and played it, but the map is so small. And this is why people say it's better, because it's a little more contained, I think, Vice City is than the rest. And then I loved San Andreas because it was like NWA. Like, you're basically playing in 1980s California.
Yeah.
And I just loved that shit. Now, they went a little overboard with you could get fat and get skinny, get muscular. There's a little too much to it.
Yeah, I can see that.
But I played those where I didn't really play Vice City except at friends' houses. Whereas if I owned it, I may completely agree Vice City's the best of that original trilogy. But I could see it going either way.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I love Vice City so much is because, I mean, when I was growing up, there was nothing above PG that I could even watch on TV or movies.
Right.
Until I graduated high school. However, we convinced my grandmother this was a good game. We had to immediately get rid of it. But I just loved that game so much.
Well, in kind of the same vein, I love Bully.
Yes.
Which is like prep school Grand Theft Auto. Map's a lot smaller, of course, because you're at a prep school and there's a little town next.
Yeah.
I actually have it on PS4. I'm planning on beating it eventually. I fucking loved Bully when it came out.
I remember you played it all the time.
Yeah, I love Bully. I would say the most recent game that I think is great, and it was almost on my top 5 list, but then I remembered Ogre Battle 64 and was like, gotta include it, is Horizon Zero Dawn, which I let you borrow 6 months ago and you haven't even touched it.
No, yeah.
Probably the best, in my opinion, of modern generation game. I think Last of Us is real good as well, and some other good games. But So you're so far in the future that people have became cave people again. And you're this red-haired girl named Alloy, I believe was her name. And then there's dinosaur robots that roam around, and you kill them and get resources off of them and do all this crazy stuff. The story's cool. It's like sci-fi, but it's like...
But it's still
old,
hunters, yeah.
Right, so like you're still hunting around. People are really fucking mean to your main character at the beginning of the game. It talked a little flack from some Native American organizations for using the term brave, which I'll never understand. If, like, say they call white people courage, and you're like, how dare you? I just don't get it. I don't get it. But, like, the game's amazing. Someday you will play it, and you'll be like, oh, fuck, I can't believe I waited this long.
For
like,
sure.
It's that good.
Yeah. So another one I have on there that was old school on Sega was just Sonic.
I mean, I had a Sega Genesis. I liked Sonic 2 a lot. I don't think I owned Sonic 1. It just, when I think back, I'm like, yeah, it was all right.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
at the time, it was
cool
just
just awesome.
Shit.
And then, I don't remember what it's called, but there's a WWF game on Sega that had like...
It was the arcade version that it was like it was like photos of people.
Yes.
Scanned into a computer, and then that's what moved.
I just remember I always used Bam Bam Bigelow.
I always use Razor Ramon.
Razor Ramon, yep, I could see that.
Some kind of other games I've played somewhere recently, and then others. Stardew Valley is a newer game. It looks like a Super Nintendo game. It's on everything. So, like, I mean, if you have anything that plays games, you can find this game. It's like Harvest Moon, which I'm sure you remember playing, where you're a farmer, right? You inherit a farm from your grandpa. This took like Harvest Moon, that whole farming aspect, and mix in just a little bit of Super Nintendo Zelda. So like you go into dungeons and you fight things with a sword and things like that. I played the fuck out of that game recently, like a few months ago. Just was like, oh, I'm gonna beat this game finally, and it hits that itch of like checking boxes, like, well, I'm gonna plant potatoes, and I gotta make sure I water them and then do these things. Now I have cows, I gotta go milk the cows. So I loved Harvest Moon as a kid, and I now love Stardew Valley, which is kind of like its I guess Harvest Moon would be its predecessor, but it's kind of carrying the torch for that sort of game. And I think one guy made it, and anytime there's a game where like one dude made it by himself, I'm gonna check it out
for sure
to see what it's like. I mentioned Final Fantasy a little bit earlier. I love Final Fantasy 6, 7, and 9. Like, those are the three I will stand by forever.
So no 8.
No, I know it's weird. 6 was on Super Nintendo. It was released as Final Fantasy 3. It was one of those games I just played with Rusty. I watched him play all that. And it's like the last great Super Nintendo game. Well, I think Chrono Trigger came out afterwards. And Chrono Trigger's great, too. It's super fucking long, and it's a convoluted story. At one point in time, you go to the moon and fight people on, like, it's ridiculous, but it's really fun. 7, I'm sure you're aware, like, it came on PS1, changed the game. It was like 3D graphics, and oh my god, these cutscenes. Played it and beat it recently on PS4. Graphics do not hold up. Still a fun game. It has the best system, in my opinion, with the materia system, the way you learn moves. 8 came out, and it was like they were trying to take off the aesthetics of 7, like the futuristic sci-fi, but that's not really what Final Fantasy was, given the name fantasy in the title. And so I just didn't like it. For whatever reason, it came out, didn't like it. If I replayed it now, maybe I would, but at the time I didn't. And then 9, I recently beat when they re-released that one. But I remember beating that as a kid, and it kind of took it to its roots of knights and wizards, and just fucking love 9. Anything from 10 onwards, like Final Fantasy 10, I wanted to love. I bought it before I even bought a PS2. Like, I bought it at Walmart. I knew I was getting a PlayStation 2 for Christmas that year. Just held it, looked at the box for 2 months. And then I played it and was like, it's too easy. This is stupid. I don't like it was the first time they had voice acting. And so, like, one of the big things for me, at least growing up, was I would name the main character after me. And then, like, so when I played 7, like, I'll name me Cloud. I would name you Barrett. Or, Barrett, I name Powwow. And you would, like, these are my friends. I'm putting them in the game. And then 10 came along and had voice acting. And you couldn't do that anymore because it wouldn't make sense for them to call, say your name, and then that's not your name. So I get why it happened. I just remember being really fucking bummed about it.
For sure.
And then 12 tried to copy an MMO. 13 I wanted to love but didn't. Like, I just have not been able to enjoy Final Fantasy games the way I once did. And then kind of in that same vein, Kingdom Hearts. I really like Kingdom Hearts. It's basically, I told you this recently, it's basically the same gameplay as God of War, and I never connected that previously. And two random small games that I've loved in the last couple of years is Firewatch on PS4, where there's no combat. You're a dude who takes a job in like the 80s as a Firewatch person in Wyoming. You're like, in a tower looking out. And then there's like a mystery going on. So you're just walking around, finding stuff. Like, not really something I would think would be my sort of game, but I played it and fucking loved it. And it has the best theme on PS4. Like, it changes by what time of day it is, changes what it looks like.
Sweet.
Like, kind of goes throughout the day and stuff. And then Life is Strange, which is this, some girl has a superpower, she can rewind time, and then she's in love with this other girl, and it's like episodic. And again, not some of my typical thing. It was free on PlayStation Plus 1 month.
So you had to play it, yeah.
And I was like, oh, this game's really fucking dope. So I would also recommend that one.
For sure. The last two I have on mine, Battlefield 3. I really got into.
I mean, that's what got me off of Call of Duty.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I loved Call of Duty. One reason I loved it was you could create your own emblem.
Yeah, that was fun.
I just remember it took me like an hour and a half to create the emblem I wanted. It was pretty dope. But Battlefield 3, the tanks, the helicopter. Now,
it was
never
so big.
For sure. And now I can still try to play it now, but I've never been good at the jets.
Yeah, airplanes are hard.
Now people are ridiculously good at them.
Have you seen those videos? Like, they'll shoot someone, jump out of it, snipe someone in the air, and then
get
land
back down in there.
it.
It's stupid impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, I can destroy some people with the tanks.
I can't put enough time into a game to be that good anymore.
No, agree. And I mean, some of these people, it's like day 2. They're already prestiged once, and you can't ever keep up anymore.
Yeah. All right, random other games. I think you had one more, but Dark Cloud, game that came out on, I think it was PlayStation 2 that I really loved. Resogun, which was a day 1 game on PS4. It's like modern Galaga or Space Invaders. Like, you're around a cylinder and you have a little spaceship and you just shoot shit. It's really fucking hard. But whenever you beat it, you feel like a badass. And I like any game that, like, you feel impressed with yourself, right, when you do something. So that's cool. Something I've loved forever, and I'm so mad they haven't come up with the 4th one, is the skate games.
I remember those, yes.
Like, Tony Hawk was cool. I understand how Tony Hawk's great. But Skate 1, Skate 2, and Skate 3, I loved every one of those games. Had Robin Big, which, we loved Robin Big back then.
Yes.
It was just like a realistic skate game, and I got really good at it. I think if I never got good at it, I probably wouldn't love it like I did. But I just fucking got good at it, and so I liked it more for that reason. And then I have 3 more I got to shout out, maybe 4. NCAA football. I don't even like Madden. I haven't for a long time. NCAA football was always better.
For sure. I just remember in high school, nonstop people would play that.
Well, and I really liked their my career sort of mode. Whether it be like you as the guy that goes through and graduates, or the coaching mode, like you're recruiting. I remember me and Marshall, so like the PS3, Xbox 360 was out for a long time at this point, but I still was playing like NCAA 09 on PS2, and it was one of my semesters I did not do good in class. I just skipped class every day, and Marshall would come over and we would do nothing but play. We made the Alaska State Tech Rockets, because you can make your own team, and we knew what every player's first and last name was on our team that we recruited, and then we made backstories for them. We're like, oh, Hernandez, a wide receiver, and it tells you like where they're from.
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, he's from Compton. He grew up on the streets, and then you would like make up all this bullshit, and then we would always know the name of our 3 linebackers. So it'd be like the Grant Smith and Weston firm.
Exactly.
Right? Like, we would make up all this bullshit, but it was so much fun to waste time. So I have to shout that one out. The Sims was a huge fucking deal.
Sims was awesome.
I mean, I still like it. I mean, like, I like Pokemon too. I didn't put on the list.
Yeah.
I just fell out of it at some point in time but like the originals I fucking loved. And then I will say my last shout out to Game Dev Tycoon, which you might remember. I bought it for $7 on Steam.
I remember that.
I've put in, I think Steam says like 800 hours into that game, just clicking and typing. Like it's almost no gameplay.
Yeah.
You're literally simulating you running a game development studio. But there's something about that game that even now I could start a game and I'd probably play it the rest of the day until I beat it. Like, I really, really enjoyed that game.
That's crazy.
I guess Mario 3. Mario 3 was the first game I loved.
Yeah, I can see that.
More than anything.
The last one that I have a shout out was probably one of the hardest games I've ever played and never beat, which was Lion King.
Oh yeah, I liked Aladdin a lot.
Aladdin was awesome. But I just remember Lion King was so difficult.
I'm pretty sure like Lion King, if I remember correctly, like in the game industry, I thought of as being one of the harder platforms. It was real floaty.
Yes.
Like Simba floated when you jumped.
You couldn't predict every time where you're gonna jump.
It was no Mario.
No, that's for sure. But that's my last one that I have to give a shout out to.
All right, and we're gonna take a quick break, and we'll be back. All right, and we're back. Did plan on covering South Park's new video game, do a little review of that. But we just spent way too long talking about video games, so we're going to save it for next week. All right, so something I kind of wanted to do, and anyone can participate at home as well when you're listening to this, is there is a website, thepoliticalcompass.org, I believe it is.
Yep.
You can take a test, kind of basically tells you where you're at. So simple XY sort of graph, from the X-axis is Republican to Democrat, the Y-axis is libertarian to authoritarian, and then you answer these questions, and it'll kind of let you know where you're at.
For sure.
As far as there, a lot of people I don't think really know what they believe. They just kind of go off of what the TV tells them to believe. I know me personally, when I'm involved in any political conversation, if I'm in a room full of conservatives, they all think I'm a diehard liberal. And when I'm in a room full of liberals, they all think I'm a conservative. Because I really do kind of try to think things through a little bit, and I'll just be like, I have to think this way. So I would encourage everyone to actually think about stuff. So we're going to go over these questions. We're going to answer them, see where we go to here. So first question to ask here is, if economic globalization is inevitable, it should be primarily to serve humanity rather than the interests of transnational corporations. And then all these answers are going to be strongly disagree, agree, or strongly agree. So what do you think, Powwow? If economic globalization is inevitable, should it be to serve humanity rather than transnational corporations?
I strongly agree with it.
I do too. I'm not one of those people that think corporations are people. I just think that's bullshit. I think that's the most bullshit thing. But so I also strongly agree to that. All right, question 2 we have, I'd always support my country whether it was right or wrong.
See, this is where it to
it's
me
a little trickier.
A little trickier. Because it depends on how far wrong it is here. If we're talking about mass extinction,
I would only go disagree as opposed to strongly disagree.
Agreed.
Because I wouldn't be a human, I don't think, if I didn't be like, well, I kind of need to protect my self-interest, right?
Exactly.
So, like, I'm not going to try to put myself in a position where I'm going to be targeted by our country if it's doing wrong shit. But in general, yeah, I disagree that I'm always going to support our country.
I agree. Same
Vietnam,
spot.
we shouldn't have been there.
No.
You know what I mean? Sort of thing. All right. No one chooses his or her country of birth, so it's foolish to be proud of it.
I'm just going to have to go with disagree.
See, I kind of agree, but I'm the same way with race and everything else. Right?
You are, yeah.
Because to me, it doesn't fucking, you're a person and you are what you are, right? And so to be proud of something you have no control over is odd to me. But I'm not against someone being proud of it just because. I just think you need to have more reasons than just because.
For sure. I mean?
All right, next one. Our race has many superior qualities compared with other races.
I just think that question's funny.
It is.
I just am surprised that's on here, honestly.
Right.
Especially right now. On this one, I am going to have to go with strongly disagree.
I also strongly disagree. I think there's historical context, certain things of like certain races made better choices or... And again, like I just said, I don't think you should be proud of your race. It's a made-up bullshit concept based on where you evolved at and your skin color and all that. So I also strongly disagree. It says, the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think I strongly agree.
I agree.
But yeah, I mean, I think at the very least, it's been hammered into our brains so long that you have to kind of agree with it. Next one, military action that defies international law is sometimes justified.
Again, to me, this is a tough one because it depends on the situation. But to me, on this one, I'm going to have to go with disagree.
Yeah, I do as well, because who is the international law making up these rules? Maybe they don't have the best interest.
And that's my thing is
I agree.
maybe he doesn't have the best interest, but again, it depends on the situation. But in most cases, I'm going to have to go with disagree.
All right. Says there is now a worrying fusion of information and entertainment.
I strongly agree with that.
I do too. And it kind of all comes back to whenever a news program is selling ads and has commercial time, they're always going to be going for entertainment.
Yep.
Or not trying to quite be honest.
Yep.
That's just the way it is, in my opinion. All right, next page we got. It says people are ultimately divided more by class than by nationality.
Strongly agree.
I also strongly agree. I think it's the one thing I try to get out when people are, claim something's racist or whatever. I guarantee you someone treats Will Smith different than a poor black person, and
Yeah.
I guarantee they treat Will Smith better than a poor white person. Like, just use him as an example.
For
right?
sure.
Like, I think everyone's lying to themselves when they act like it's divided on color and not by how much money you make or have.
Agreed.
It says controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment.
For this one, honestly,
I could go either way.
I agreed. I'm going to have to go with agree.
See, I think I'm going to go with disagree. But really my only thought process there is I think if people were working, I think it's just better for everyone if everyone has a job. I think it's slightly more important than controlling inflation because in theory, the free market should balance the inflation thing.
It should.
It doesn't, but it should.
It should, but it doesn't.
We'll disagree on that one, but I don't think we're that far off on our thinking.
No. All right. So next question. Because corporations cannot be trusted to voluntarily protect the environment, they require regulation.
I think their setup sentence was really important to the question.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would love to say, yeah, companies should do what they want. But we've obviously seen throughout history, people are not going to care about the environment if they're going to make money.
Agreed. I mean, we just talked about the 9 million deaths in 2015.
Right.
To me, I agree on this one.
Me as well. It's a sad reflection on our society that something as basic as drinking water is now a bottled, branded consumer product.
Agreed.
I would say yes and no because bottled water's existed forever. Not forever, for a long time. Because people couldn't trust if the water they were getting was clean or not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily think it's a sad reflection. I mean, it is in a way that people are going to pay money when they could get out of a tap. But you pay for that water too. It's just a lot cheaper.
For sure. And hopefully you don't get any of the chemicals in your city's water.
So you agree on that? I'm going to say disagree just because I don't know if it's necessarily a sad reflection of our society or if it's just the way the world works because, for instance, like when Fiji water first came out, it was super expensive and people were like, they're willing to pay it
nuts
because of the price tag, right?
Yes.
And it really wasn't because the water was bad or anything.
No.
I just think it's the way it is. Same way like the place your normal paper towels get made, like your name brand versus your generic brand, it's in the same factory. It's just some people are going to pay more because that one costs more, and that's just how people are.
Yeah.
So, it says land shouldn't be a commodity to be bought and sold.
So I'm going to kind of go against my normal way of thinking because after I reread this question, I'm going to have to agree, even though I am a current land and homeowner.
Yeah.
But I do agree with that statement. It's just with our current society, I can't.
I mean, really the question is, should people be able to own land? That's more or less what it's saying.
Yes.
They always have.
I think if I was able to actually own it, yes. But at the end of the day, you don't 100% own your land.
I mean, the U.S. can come and take it from you anytime.
For sure. So that's why I have to agree with that statement.
I think I will lean that way as well. It says, it is regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to their society.
Agreed.
I think I agree as well on a principle level. I mean, I respect the hustle. I really do.
Exactly.
But just on, I guess, my moral level, I'd have to agree on that. It says protectionism is sometimes necessary in trade. So that's kind of like, what Trump's talking about right now. Like, we need to protect our self-interest in these trade scenarios. I want to agree, but I also like free trade. And I think free trade would mean
agreed.
There's no laws anywhere as far as doing that sort of back deal stuff. But we've seen the effects of that where jobs are lost and things. So.
Exactly. To me, I'm going to have to agree.
I'm gonna disagree. All right, it says the only social responsibilities of a company should be to deliver a profit to its shareholders.
On this one, I strongly disagree.
Okay, I'm just gonna go a normal disagree, but I understand the strongly disagree, and I can honestly understand the other side as well because your shareholders put money into it. I mean, I think expect something in return.
I think it's where you're at. I'm not a shareholder at all.
Right.
So to me, I think you have to take care of not just your shareholders, but also your employees that you have in your company. So to me, and now maybe if I was in another scenario where I may disagree differently, but on this one, I have to strongly disagree.
Right. All right. It says the rich are too highly taxed.
Strongly disagree.
Well, I'll be honest, I don't know what all the laws are, right, and things like that, as far as what they are taxed, but I do know there's enough loopholes that they come out not paying much.
Next year, because the new tax bracket came out, and I believe it's 35% is the max that they could be taxed. Where if I'm getting almost 25% taxed.
Right, well, I'm kind of in the thing, I think everyone should be taxed the same percent.
I can go with that.
Because I know how percentages work. A lot of people don't seem to. And when people are like, well, 25% to me is a lot more than 25% to you. I'm like, yeah, I know how that works.
It. Yes.
But whatever we decide the number should be, I don't see why it's not that across the board.
I could go with that.
So I will kind of have to agree on or disagree with the saying they are too highly taxed. And it says, those with the ability to pay should have access to higher standards of medical care.
Because I have to look at it this way, that it going out working 60 hours a week, and because you have that extra job that you decided to work for, that you can now have this additional benefit.
Well, I think it's weird that we view, at least in America lately, and it's kind of against my liberal friends, care is automatically different than all other purchases. And I just don't think it's like some people can afford this car and some people can afford this kind of car.
Agreed.
Some people can afford this kind of food and some people can afford more expensive food. Like, I think that option should be there if you want to put the money into it.
Agree. So on this one, I have to go with agree.
All right. It says government should penalize businesses that mislead the public.
I have to strongly agree on that.
I agree as well. Now, fun fact, food industry, no regulations. All that shit you see on boxes of organic, 100% this, no one checks that and they can just lie to you.
Yeah.
And no one cares.
Wasn't there that thing about the 100% GMO tomatoes? And there's actually no GMO tomatoes at all.
Right. Well, and that's the other thing. I don't have a problem with GMO stuff. It's a genetically modified organism. If we can make fruit bigger just by going in and genetically changing it, that is not saying we're changing anything else about it. I think maybe we'll have a topic in the future. There's a huge misconception on a lot of that stuff.
For sure.
All right. It says a genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of predator multinationals to create monopolies. So basically, right, Apple is the richest company in the world. Mm-hmm. They could go out and buy every technology company. They have the money to make themselves a monopoly. And in a real free market, you would allow that to happen because it's the free market. Mm-hmm. I think if we all started out at zero, like right now we reset the decks, everyone had the same amount of monopoly money at the beginning, then you let them do it.
Yeah.
But I think because we're going to be impacted by history and everything that's come before, I have to agree, like that can happen in a generally free market.
I agree.
Because it's not. I don't think we can ever get to a real free market.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And it says, the freer the market, the freer the people.
Is freer even a real word?
Never seen it until now because it looked like freer.
Exactly. Okay, sorry.
I mean, in a way, if you're saying a free people means you could do what you want, yeah.
Agreed. That's what I'm saying. To me, I have to agree with it.
But I think it's hinting at other stuff.
Yeah,
I agree as well.
Even though I don't think freer, I don't know. Someone tell me if I'm wrong, but I just
never heard it.
Never heard of freer.
Not seen this, but I would have told it FRE-ER.
It almost looked like freezer with some missing letters in it.
Yeah. All right. It looks like we're getting some good ones here on page 3. It says abortion, when the woman's life is not threatened, should always be illegal.
I have to disagree.
Yeah. And this isn't off a moral thing. I just think, in general, I disagree with the woman's my body, my choice thing, because I do think if the man is involved in the life and they wanted the kid, And a lot of people are like, who gives a fuck what they think? That's a hard one for me to deal with. Right?
I agree.
In that thought process. But in general, I kind of think if a woman wants to pay for it and it's not the time in their life and it's early enough that they should be able to get an abortion.
Agreed. I mean, I always think the rape argument always gets thrown into it.
Yeah, but I mean, even if they had consensual sex, if you didn't want to get pregnant, I mean, we have condoms, birth control, we have all kinds of other birth control methods. But for some reason, this one is the one that's the problem for people.
Or if you're on the Senate panel, you believe the women's body can reject.
Yeah, it can reject rape sperm. All right. It says all authority should be questioned.
On this,
I agree.
I will say on this one, because of what I usually do, I have to say agree.
All right. It says an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth.
I agree.
I would have to say I disagree. I think that's just all kind of how you're raised in different people.
For sure.
Right? I don't always think two wrongs make a right sort of thing, right? And that's basically, to me, that's how I read that.
I understand.
Two wrongs make a right. But if you're saying it in a positive way, like someone does something good for you, do something good for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of. So kind of depends on the context on that one. All right, it says taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any threat. Wait, did I read that right?
No, theaters.
Oh, theaters or museums that cannot survive on a commercial basis.
I don't understand where their question comes from.
Like, should the government step in to keep open a business that people obviously don't care enough about to support financially? I would argue that it's always been this way. The monarchies supported artists because they wanted art in the world. Mm-hmm. Guess it depends how much you care about art and stuff. I think in today's world that doesn't happen near as much as it used to. But yeah, museums probably aren't going to make enough money on their own these days. But if you have a kid that fucking loves dinosaurs and you want to take them to a museum and you want to be able to show them, you want it to be there, and you don't want to pay $30 to go to a museum. You like permission.
Exactly. So then, thinking about it, I have to just disagree.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, I don't like the government having to do stuff to keep something. I mean, kind of goes against the whole free market idea in a way. All right, so schools should not make classroom attendance compulsory. I think if it's free, they should.
Exactly.
I think if you're getting a free education, yeah, you should have to be in class.
For sure.
I know in college I hated attendance policies. And I'm like,
we're paying for it?
I'm paying
exactly.
for this. I can show up if I want to. If I bought a movie with the ticket, you're not going to force me to go see the movie. I can skip it if I want.
Yeah, but I agree. Public schools, I saw on that one, I have to disagree.
All right. It says all people have their rights, but it is better for all of us that different sorts of people should keep to their own kind.
Yeah, I'm going to have to disagree with that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one's an easy one. I mean, I will even say strongly.
Yeah, I would say, you know what, I have to, strongly. Because I guess if that, then we shouldn't even be doing this podcast.
Yeah, because we're mixed racing it over here on the podcast. It says good parents sometimes have to spank their children.
I'll agree.
I won't go strongly because I mean, there's plenty of research of showing violence at a young age is going to lead to violence, and
for sure. I mean,
I've seen the opposite where people don't discipline their kids at all,
and it gets
and if I learned anything
out of
from
control.
Super Nanny, at least do timeouts.
Timeouts for sure.
All right. It says it's natural for children to keep some secrets from their parents.
Absolutely agree.
Yep, I do as well. All right. It says possessing marijuana for personal use should not be a criminal offense. I'm going to strongly agree.
Yep. I was about to say strongly agree.
I mean, I'm just in the general thought of if you're not harming others, and I think you have the right to harm yourself if you do think it's harmful.
For sure.
Now, if you're possessing marijuana and beating people because of it, yeah, that
Agree.
assault should be illegal. But
Yep.
just you owning a controlled substance, I don't think should be criminal, but I am biased because I've been arrested. All right, it says the prime function of schooling should be to equip the future generations to find jobs. Stuff.
This is tough.
I think it depends on the level. I think elementary school, that's not.
No, agreed.
That should be learn critical thinking and learn how to think for yourself. But I think at a certain level.
I think once you hit high school.
Right. I mean, I think even in college, the way we have gen ed courses where I'm like, why do I take biology? I'm not going into that field.
I don't need zoology at all to.
Right. So, I don't know if I'm going to go agree or disagree.
I'm going to have to go with. I'm going to have to go with.
I'm going to agree. I'm going to agree that it should be. Actually, I'm going to say I disagree because I'm going to think of public schooling here because that's the one the government pays for or whatever. And up to a certain age, I don't think it should be just to find a job. I think if you learn all the other stuff, it would help you find a job, but they shouldn't necessarily be teaching you how to cut hair in high school or do things job focused.
For sure.
It says people with serious inheritable disabilities should not be allowed to reproduce.
I have to disagree.
See, I've always kind of been fascinated with eugenics, right? And I know it led to Nazism and that whole thing of superior races. I think if there is scientific facts that certain things are passed on through the genes, I'm not against this. I know that kind of is against freedom and all that stuff, right? But like, and I know this isn't the case, but like say like Down syndrome or something like that, if it was only passed through people, like through genes, as far as like Down syndrome people have Down syndrome babies, right? But obviously that's not the case. Then I could see that, but I can't think of any diseases that are only passed like that.
Yeah, I don't. But I mean, on that one, I have to, you know what? Honestly, have to strongly disagree.
Yeah. I think everyone should be able to have sex.
Yeah, it's amazing.
All right. The most important thing for children to learn is to accept discipline. I think it is important. I
don't think it's the most important.
Right.
I have to disagree with that. I mean, I agree. I think it is very important that you understand discipline, that there is consequences for all of your actions.
But I would say there's probably more important things.
For sure.
All right, it says there are no savage and civilized people. There are only different cultures. So I guess when they're saying peoples here, they mean groups of people. Because I think there could be an individual person who is savage or
for sure
civil. But apparently the first Homo sapien, if born today and raised in our society, should turn out more or less like me or you. We haven't changed that much. That's what makes us Homo sapiens. So I would have to agree with that.
Yep.
All right. It says when you are troubled, it's better not to think about it, but to keep busy with more cheerful things.
I have to strongly disagree.
I mean, I don't do that. So I would disagree, but it might be better.
I just think
I don't have experience.
Rip the Band-Aid off and let's get it taken care of.
You're right. All right, it says first generation immigrants can never be fully integrated within their new country. Disagree?
Yeah, I just don't know if this means like this we would allow them to do so or they just can't.
I think their experiences definitely would be different if they grew up in a different, like a third world country than here. Like they would never be fully exactly like you because they didn't. If they got their own food, for instance, and me and you got TV dinners handed to us, like we won't be the same. But I think they could love the country and be as patriotic to a place that has given them opportunities.
There's plenty of people that do that now. Yeah,
right. So I would have to disagree. It says what's good for the most successful corporations is always ultimately good for all of us.
I have to disagree.
I would even say strongly disagree.
Yeah, I mean...
Because I don't know why, again, I mentioned Apple earlier, why Apple making a bunch of money, how is that good for me?
Exactly. It doesn't help me, except for that it just means you're going to now make iPhones. I mean, the 10's going to be $1,000 as it is the basic model. Right. So, yeah, I have to disagree. All right, so page 4. So, all right, next question. Our civil liberties are being excessively curbed in the name of counterterrorism.
I strongly agree.
Yep. I was just about to say, yeah.
I mean, the NSA is listening on this podcast right now through this webcam on our computer.
For sure.
And we can't do shit about it because of terrorism. It says a significant advantage of a one-party state is that it avoids all the arguments that delay progress in a democratic political system. So this is basically saying if like we only had Democrats or only had Republicans, we would progress faster because no one would be bickering.
Except for the people that don't want to be part of that system.
I mean, I'm against a two-party state. Like, I think we should have multiple.
Agreed.
I think only having two choices is just, it's tricking us, right?
It is.
So I would have to...
I'm going to have to strongly.
Yeah, strongly disagree. All right, it says, although the electronic age makes official surveillance easier... Only wrongdoers need to be worried.
I disagree with that.
I also disagree. I mean, we know of there are plenty of stories of people abusing their power, getting into exes' phones, looking at pictures, things like that. All right, it says the death penalty should be an option for the most serious crimes.
But it just says most serious. To me, that's like not most serious physical crimes.
Well, in my mind, this is only including when you kill people. But maybe the other people that wouldn't be right. But so, like, the way I read it, of most serious crimes would be murder.
But like I've seen in Florida, they're going to allow the death penalty for a drug trafficking charge.
That's nuts.
Now, granted, he was also convicted of he had beat a few people that owed him some money. But his major charge was cocaine and heroin, and I think 1 or 2 people had overdosed on it as well.
I guess, I mean, if those crimes lead to death, if he's can from behind prison walls still orchestrate other people's deaths.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of get the argument. I'm just going to agree with this in the death penalty.
Agreed.
Only for a financial reason, really. Because my grandfather always said, why pay for someone's whole life in jail when you can just take them out with a 50-cent bullet or whatever. And I kind of understand that.
Yeah, we just don't have firing squads.
But then again, like in, say, Texas, they've done all this DNA testing on old things, and they release all these people that were on death row.
Yeah, and it makes you like, yeah, that's a problem.
So I think I'm only really cool with the death penalty if you were 100% know they admitted to it or you have undisputable evidence.
For sure.
All right, it says, in a civilized society, one must always have people above to be obeyed and people below to be commanded. Whew, I mean, I don't know, because part of me in the word civilized does kind of make me lean that way.
Agreed.
I don't know if that's really part of the definition, but I understand that. But in general, I don't think people have to be in charge. People have to. I would like to think we as humans could get to a place of like, let's all be good. Now, we might not be able to.
I just don't think we could get there. I mean, honestly, on this one, I'm going to have to go with agree.
I have to go with disagree. All right, it says abstract art that doesn't represent anything shouldn't be considered art at all.
I'm just not a huge art buff, but I
would strongly disagree because art is so. It doesn't. I mean, it's up to the eye of the beholder.
That's all I was going to say. So to me on this one, I just have to go with disagree.
I mean, you can see a mountain and be like, "That's beautiful art," and it's it's nature.
Yeah.
Right. Or it can be someone put a red dot on a white wall, and for what it speaks to you for whatever reason, and that speaks to you.
To each its own.
How I look at it. All right, it says in criminal justice, punishment should be more important than rehabilitation.
To me, on this one, I have to strongly disagree.
I think I just normal disagree because, like we've talked about LV.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if rehabilitation would ever have worked.
And I agree. I think there has to be a limit. But I think the first thing we should try to do is not just punish people, but try to
figure out how to. The next question kind of gets here. It is a waste of time to try and rehabilitate some criminals.
Okay. that follows it up. So I agree with that one.
It says the business person and the manufacturer are more important than the writer and the artist.
Disagree.
I disagree as well. I mean, to an extent, I guess if you're actually making something to be consumed, that you could see it as being more important than the person just giving opinions or art. But you don't know what those opinions and art could lead to on the other side for the business person and the manufacturer. It says mothers may have careers, but their first duty is to be homemakers. I mean, I have
to strongly disagree with it. I mean, I think that should be an option, but that should not be the very first thing that is required.
Right. I mean, I think
a mother.
If that fits with your lifestyle. Sure. If it doesn't,
exactly.
Sure. Like, I mean, we watch Rugrats, and Phil and Lil's parents had gender reverse roles from the typical traditional sense, right? And they were fine. Says multinational companies are unethically exploiting the plant genetic resources of developing countries. Yeah, I mean, so like Apple goes to China to make all these phones because there's resource-rich things and they can pay nothing to people. Now, I'm not against them doing it. Do you want a $10,000 iPhone? Probably not. So, I mean, I think there's pros and cons to both, but I would have to agree that they are exploiting these things.
For sure.
And then making peace with the establishment is as an important aspect of maturity.
I have to disagree because if I'm challenging the establishment to begin with, then I can't say that I am wanting to make peace with them, even if I disagree with their viewpoint.
I think if you mean maturity as in the sense of when you get older and you understand things, I think you do have to make peace on things you can accomplish. Like, I don't think I can change anything on my own. So I think it's kind of part of maturity. I don't know if that's the right way to think.
Is it maturity, or is it just after a while you're saying I'm done with trying to try anymore?
Right. All right, next page. Out of 6. We're getting there. All right, it says astrology accurately explains many things. I strongly disagree.
I'll say I just disagree.
First off, the sign you were born under isn't correct.
Exactly.
First off, it's been changed because it's not always those exact days. And then people will be like, now, me personally, I fit Aquarius to a T. When you read anything, I'm like, yep, that's me. But I don't really put any faith into that.
No.
All right, it says you cannot be moral without being religious. I strongly disagree.
Yep. Yeah.
I do not need a religious text to tell me killing people is bad, stealing's wrong.
For sure.
Rape's good. Oh, wait, most religious texts don't mention rape, and we all know it's horrible. All right, charity is better than social security as a means of helping the genuinely disadvantaged. I will just normal disagree.
Yeah, I mean,
because I think charities can be picky, choosy, have human agendas.
For sure.
All that. It says some people are naturally unlucky.
I guess I would have to agree.
I do too, because I feel naturally unlucky.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of people I feel they just have bad luck all the time.
So it is important that my child's school instills religious values.
Strongly disagree.
I also strongly disagree.
Again, I think each person should be able to choose their own religion, and if you start off at an early age where a kid doesn't have enough knowledge,
right?
Then I just don't think that's correct.
Sex outside of marriage is usually immoral.
I have to strongly disagree.
Yeah, I think it is just a desire.
Yeah.
Before you're married, or unless we're getting married at 12 again, like the good old days.
Jesus.
All right, so the same-sex couple in a stable, loving relationship should not be excluded from the possibility of child adoption. Strongly agree.
Yeah.
Not be excluded. Yeah, strongly agree.
Yeah, I'll say make sure I'm answering that right. I would have to strongly agree.
Yeah, I mean,
I just want to make sure I read the question
idea
right.
that gay couples will make gay children, I'm like,
is nuts to me.
Just like all straight couples make straight children.
Yeah, that happens all the time.
I know. All right, pornography depicting consenting adults should be legal for the adult population. Free market, I have to agree.
Yeah.
Now, I think if people are forced into this, like sex slavery,
then
it's
exactly
horribly wrong. But if they're consenting. It says, what goes on in a private bedroom between consenting adults is no business of the state. I strongly agree.
They had strongly agree. I don't know why it was already selected, but it was already selected to strongly agree.
It just knew.
Exactly.
All right, it says, no one can feel naturally homosexual.
Strongly disagree with that.
I do as well. And mainly because we grew up in a time where everyone said gay, in fact, would mean stupid and things like that. And I just can't imagine I would ever choose that. And I never choose to be straight. I just thought tits were cool, right, or whatever. Like, I don't know who would choose that and make their life harder, at least when we grew up. I think it's probably easier now than it used to be.
But when we grew up, it would...
I just don't... I don't get why.
And even now, to a certain degree, it can be more difficult.
Especially where we live.
Yeah. For sure.
All right, it says, these days, openness about sex has gone too far.
I disagree with that.
I disagree as well. Like... Not strongly, because, yeah, sure, I think...
Some things are a little...
For instance, like, you have kids, and they're going to learn about sex probably way before we did.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Just all, I mean, and I don't know if that's good or bad. We'll see.
Exactly. We don't know. We'll see in 15 years or so.
All right. See where we stand.
All right.
All right. You got to scroll down some. See where you're at. So, look like this.
All right, yeah.
All right, so I am... a little more towards libertarian than I am towards liberal. Right? So like I am 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces down towards libertarian, 4 spaces towards liberal. So I am definitely libertarian.
So I am more towards authoritarian. I don't have a dot. Where? Hold on. Sorry, give me 1 second. My thing's taking a second to load. Okay, there it is. See?
No, keep going. That's the example picture.
Oh, okay. I'm like, why is that? There we go. It's like, that just doesn't make sense. Yeah, wow. How far?
I'm 4 left, 5 down.
I'm 7 left, 5 down.
So you're a little more liberal than me.
Mm-hmm. Which makes sense.
Yeah. I think in real life I'm probably a little more libertarian. You know, I'm more on the people need to figure it out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we're both in the bottom left section. The closest person to us for their famous people
is Gandhi.
And if there is anyone I'll be compared to,
I'm good with leaders. That. Better than this Stalin, Hitler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. So anyway, we're kind of both in the same spot. Maybe that makes for not as an interesting of a podcast. And if you disagree with us, I'm totally cool with that. If you take the test, and I think everyone should kind of see where you're at, give you an idea of what you think, and just check it out.
Yeah.
All right. So we went pretty long here, but we got one more thing we're going to try to bring up. So what was it, Powwow?
We do. So I just have some questions. I don't listen to a whole lot of podcasts. I don't know if our listeners do as well, or maybe they just like us that much. They only want to listen to us. So I'm fine with that. But I just had some questions of some good podcasts. Obviously, ESPN's got a ridiculous amount of those. Yeah. But what is some good podcasts to listen to, especially if I'm wanting to listen to like basketball, for instance?
Right. Okay. Yeah. I'll go over. I'm just go through my list. I have an app I have an Android phone called Podcast Addict. You have an iPhone, so you can just go to iTunes and subscribe to podcasts. Mm-hmm. By the way, if you're listening to this, go to iTunes and subscribe to our podcast, write a review, all of that. So some I like. This one has not been around for 2 years, but I still have it on my list because I like it. Is Jeff Garland, or by the way, In Conversation with Jeff Garland. He's the dad off Goldberg's. He is one of the first podcasts I found because I was trying to see if Conan done podcasts. Okay. And he interviews Conan on one of them because they were actually roommates in Chicago before either one were famous.
Really?
And they have really fun. So he just has a famous person on and he just interviews them, and he laughs all the fucking time. At first it's annoying, but then you're so used to it, you like it. Again, he hasn't put out a new episode in 2 years, but I think they're interesting. Let's see. I was listening to some fantasy football podcasts. I'm so over Matthew Berry on his ESPN one that, because he's wrong a lot.
Agree. I was going to say, he is wrong quite often.
So, I mean, that's his hustling that he wants to do, but he tries really hard to be funny, and I just don't find him that funny.
For sure.
Freakonomics Radio, I'm subscribed to it. I don't listen to all of them, but they normally have some good topics of just random stuff that you're like, let's see what they have to say there. A couple of video game podcasts, which is made by IGN. They're kind of hooked. They talk about current events, in video games, and at the end of every episode, they do a video game 20 questions. So there's like the host knows the name of the video game, and then they have to ask, did this come out before 2000? Did it come out before 1998? They have 20 questions to try to guess what video game they're thinking about. So it's like a fun game at the end, right? And then also Podcast Beyond, which is an IGN one that's focused on PlayStation, and we like PlayStation, so I'll always check that out.
You have any news podcasts that I guess the least unbiased?
Not really. I don't really listen to many news podcasts because, like you're saying, they're going to lean one way or the other. A couple other video game ones, the kind of funny people, they're guys that were in IGN, they left. They do some current event stuff, but they're in San Francisco, and they're a little too liberal, honestly, for my taste, some of their stuff, but they cover video games, and they're a fairly fun podcast to listen to. The Ringer, which is Bill Simmons' company, yes. I listen to a lot of their podcasts. So the Bill Simmons podcast, what it's called. You said the BS Report with ESPN. I really like his. He has celebrity interviews a lot of times. Like he just had Jeff Bridges on and talked about the Big Lebowski and stuff.
For sure.
Every Monday, I think it is, him and Cousin Sal from Jimmy Kimmel's show. They guess the lines for what NFL games are going to be, or they done NBA over-unders for the season. They just talk about sports, pop culture, politics. They kind of cover a gamut of everything. I do like the Ringer's NBA show. Has this dude from Memphis who sounds like he should be doing football podcasts because he just has that Memphis voice. But it's really good. Larry Wilmore, who was the black senior correspondent from The Daily Show.
Yes.
He has a podcast called Black on the Air that's underneath the Ringer's label. Eventually we're going to get into race stuff more on an episode, and we'll see. A lot of times he goes too far. Like, I hate this whole, it's us versus them, regardless of what it is. So when even minorities say that, I'm like, you're doing the same thing.
And you're making it worse.
Right. So he kind of goes there a little too much, but I still enjoy his podcast. As far as ESPN ones, I used to love the NBA Lockdown podcast from ESPN. Had George Sedano, Izzy Gutierrez, Amino Hassan, some of the people I really like. Last week, they changed it to the Hoop Collective, changed the name of the podcast, and they now have like Brian Windhorst and the Boston lady, I can't think of her
Ramona
name.
Shelburne?
No, the lady from Boston that's older
Oh,
was on Around the Horn forever. She wrote the book about.
I know you're talking about. I got a picture of her
Anyway,
face.
they
She's
have
on
all
Around the
these
Horn quite often.
older people, and they talk like NPR like this. So what we're going to talk about is the Cavaliers today, and it's just not like it gets under my skin because it's just not as good as it used to be. And like I can't even listen to a whole episode.
It's like you're going to change it, make it better, not make it worse.
Or just keep the old one and make this new one. Like, why do we have to get rid of it? See, I love Joe Rogan, the Joe Rogan Experience.
Yes.
He just has people on and interviews them. They talk about it. They're like 3-hour long podcasts, so they take a long time, but they're always very entertaining. This American Life, which is an NPR thing. I don't normally like a lot of NPR stuff because they always have a certain cadence and rhythm they talk with that kind of puts you to sleep a little bit. But I do enjoy that one. The Comedy Button, which I think you should definitely check out. It's like 4 friends who just shoot the shit. They do a weekly show, kind of like what we're doing.
Yeah.
Except we're a little more on, like we have topic. They come in with like, let's just start talking about random Nickelodeon shit or whatever. But it is good. There's an official PlayStation blogcast, which I listen to. And then I guess my favorite ESPN one would be Jalen and Jacoby. They have a daily show. I listen to it every day. Jalen Rose is an idiot sometimes, but he's entertaining. Jacoby is more the straight man, right? Like kind of sticks a little more to the facts, but even he's kind of ridiculous from time to time. But it's funny and it's good.
For sure.
One I think you would really like because you love the Impractical Jokers.
I do.
Is Tell 'em Steve Dave.
Yes.
It's 2 guys from Comic Book Men and then Q from Impractical Jokers. And I really love Brian from Comic Book Men. I just really enjoy his humor. And he does a lot of the like, everyone's freaking out over nothing. Like he brought up how people call Trump voters Trump tards, and he has a special needs daughter. And he's like, liberals are always the ones complaining about terms, but yet they're using Trump tard, which clearly is pointing to retards, which we don't like.
It's not a politically
he makes some
correct.
good,
Exactly.
makes some good points. He's like, I don't care. He goes, but for them to be the people who care,
and then you're saying this
Right.
it
And
contradicts. I get it.
I really like Tell 'em Steve Dave. Like I said, I listen to every Bill Simmons podcast, Jalen and Jacoby. So I mean, those are probably my highlights of things that I listen to. And then every once in a while, I'll hear a random one. Like the Serial podcast really popularized podcast for a while, and it was good. It was like a weekly series. It's kind of like Making a Murderer, but podcast form. So I mean, that one is good. But really, sports wise, Jalen Jacoby show, and then Bill Simmons podcast really like. But then I don't love like all the Ringer stuff. Like they have a video game podcast that's horrible because again, the dude's voices are super boring. And I think that's where I've learned like the rhythm in which you talk and how you talk kind of matters on these podcasts. I think we're doing decent for us just starting out. Hopefully we'll get better. But as long as we don't sound too super boring, I think we'll be all right. All right, so that's, and I got to shout out Kevin Smith podcast. So he has Fat Man on Batman, which is more nerd-centric, him and this dude, Mark, I don't remember the guy's last name. And then he has the Smodcast, which is with the dude who helped him produce Clerks and been his collaborator for a long time. And they're just super funny. Like, it's one if I listen while walking the dog in the park, like, I'll crack up laughing walking, and then people look at me like, what,
like, what are you doing? Yeah.
It's also like that one a lot, too.
All right. Well, I think that wraps up this show.
Ran long today.
Exactly. Again, if you have any comments or you would like for us to discuss anything, please email us. That again is thepowwowwithmo@gmail.com.
Mo does not have an E.
It does not. So it's THEPOWWOWWITHMO@gmail.com.
All right, and again, we're going to have a beat playing us out by Sin City, spelled CYNSITY. Dude's name's Mike Ford. If you like his beats, want to get in touch with him,
Appreciate
email us and get that over to him.
All right, peace out, guys.
Peace.